I'm Francesca Barrientos. I'm a member of the design transformation team in the cloud and network security business at Cisco Systems. I want to tell you a little bit about one of our design thinking projects, applying customer journey maps to a business architecture transformation challenge. I gotta say, I'm excited that our leadership values design thinking enough to have us applying it to this business problem. I'll tell you a little bit more about the problem, why we think customer journey maps are the right way to approach it, what we've learned, and what we still have to figure out. Business architecture is about aligning the business's capabilities like marketing, sales, customer support to deliver to the customer what they want, when they want it, and however they want to get it. Now, when we're talking about these different capabilities, we're actually talking about different teams, and they need to support the customer in different ways. So we need to allow them to develop the right processes and strategies, playbooks, whatever they need to support the customer in their way. This is even more complex at a place like Cisco Security because we have this wide portfolio of products and services. And so these teams are distributed across these different organizations. So when a customer, whether they have one of our products or they have several of our products that are meant to be integrated together, they're going to end up talking to these different teams around the organization. And yet, we want them to have this coherent experience with us. So the problem is, how do we decide the experience we want them to have and make that happen, and yet allow each of these teams to figure out what they need to do to support the customer in their own way? We're using customer journey maps as kind of this North Star that capabilities can align to. In our end-to-end journey map, we've defined 7 phases, the typical ones: need, discover, evaluate, buy, onboard, use, and renew. And at each phase, we've defined what the customer's high-level goals are. And that way, we can figure out which capabilities need to align their strategies to support the customer in that phase. Now, for each of the capabilities, now they have a way, or they have a little more context to figure out how they want to support the customer because they can see where the customer's been, where they're going, and the other teams that they need to coordinate with. Now, as far as achieving a good customer experience, a really good customer experience, we're using moments that matter. And those are incidents that can happen on the way to the customer achieving their goal, where how the company handles that incident can really determine whether or not the customer wants to stay on that journey. The prototypical example is, say you're flying somewhere and the airline loses your luggage, and how they handle that is going to determine whether or not you want to fly with them again. So with these moments that matter, each of these capabilities can ensure that they have a strategy for turning those moments into positive experiences that keep the customer on the journey with us. Like any good design thinking project, this one has been a bit of an experiment, and we're learning as we go along. One of the things we've learned as we've talked to different teams is that each of them has a slightly different culture, so they use terminology just a little bit differently. So we've had to define what we think are kind of common terms like use case and offering. The other thing we found is that other organizations, like our customer experience organization, have their own journey maps for aligning their processes. So in order to work well together, we needed to make sure that we had a translation between the phases in our journey map and their journey map. As far as the things we need to figure out still, those of you who work with journey maps know that it can be difficult to figure out the right level of detail of data to put into it. And this one is at a very high level, at the business architecture level. So one of our next steps is to build out journey maps using this framework for specific products, services, or offerings. This has been a little glimpse into design thinking at Cisco Security and how we're applying customer journey maps to business architecture transformation. If you want to hear a little bit more about that, or just learn about Cisco design thinking in general, feel free to hit me up at one of the contact URLs in my profile.